Hello guys, so in this video we are going to talk about what is DHCP and what is DNS, what servers. We are just going to look about the theoretical and basic part about it. So yeah, let's start with DHCP. So as you can see on the screen, DHCP server is basic. What DHCP full form of DHCP is Dynamic Host Control Protocol, and what it does is basically suppose look at this diagram here. Suppose if you have five machines, so you have five machines here, and all the machines are connected in the same network. So there are two options you have. One is you can go and manually assign IP address to each of the machines. The problem with this is that you will need a lot of manual labor if you have more than five, like 100 or 200 machines. And other thing is that if you want to remove certain machines or add certain other machines, that it will be a lot of difficult or challenging task, as you will need to keep track of the IP addresses that you removed, or keep track of the IP addresses that you need to add and stuff like that. So to reduce that task, we have the DHCP server here. So the DHCP server has one more part to it, which is called the address allocation server. So what the address allocation server does is that it basically keeps a track of all the IP addresses assigned in the network, in the given network. And it is also the server which basically tells DHCP server to tell what IP address to assign which machine and all of that. So yeah, so if we have five machines here, as you can see, this machine is saying I need an IP address, and this one is and the DHCP server is saying is that you can have this one. So the DHCP, once you connect the DHCP server to the network, it will automatically assign the IP addresses, and you can configure a network like it is very dynamic. You can give it the range of IP addresses you want to assign, or you can also give it the IP addresses which you want to keep reserved. For example, the IP address for machines like printers need to be reserved, as those machines will always be there. They won't be replaced. So yeah, so you can keep certain IP addresses reserved for certain different or certain special machines, and also set the IP address range and a lot, and can also do a lot of stuff. So the one more benefit of DHCP server is that if you remove one of the machines from this server, then the IP address of that machine will not go in vain. It will be taken back by the DHCP server, and it will store it back in the database as unallocated. So if a new machine is added to the network, then that IP address will be reassigned to the new machine. Will be assigned to the new machine. Which basically saves a lot of IP address from getting wasted, which might have happened if we do the IP address assigning manually. So yeah, DHCP server basically is helps a lot in large networks to automatically handle the IP address assigning and task, and it is a much more dynamic. But for basics, this much is good. This much is enough for you to know. So next one is the DNS server. So as we can see in this picture, what is DNS server? Basically, DNS server is domain name system, or domain name server. So what this server does is that when we search any website on Google, on any search engine, on any or Google, we are not really calling IP, that website's name. The server, or the internet stores data in numbers, right? So the internet will access that website via the website's IP address. The name that we see, google.com, facebook.com, ebay.com, are all for the sake of user experience, so that the user can access it easily. But what actually happens in the background is that our request goes to a server which is called a DNS server. That DNS server is basically a chart, you can say, connections, or yeah, a chart where on the one side there is all the names that all the URL names like google.com, facebook.com, ebay.com, and on the other side are the IP addresses that are assigned, that are corresponding to the specific names. So when we send a request, or when we search something on the search engine, it that name goes to a DNS server. The DNS server then searches the database for that name, and then takes the IP address and which is there corresponding to that name, and then sends a request to that IP address and gets back the data. So to see the example of how DNS server works, or to see how just these IP addresses work, let's open up the command prompt. Okay, now let's ping Google here. Ping google.com. Okay, so as you can see, we are getting a reply, which means we have connected successfully. We have pinged the google.com successfully. Now let's do one thing. Let's take this IP address, or let's type this IP address. So what is it? 172.1.217.166.46. 172.217, yeah. So when we type this, as you can see, we can directly we are redirected to google.com, so we don't really need to type this. But but it is very difficult to remember IP addresses, or websites by its IP addresses. So for the sake of simplicity, they have added this URL names, and the DNS server basically handles everything. If we want to check another website, we can do that. So let's ping some website like DuckDuckGo, that is a search engine. DuckDuckGo.com. Okay, we are not getting data back, sorry. Okay, then let's search something else. Ping Facebook.com. So let's take the IP address of Facebook now, which is 157.240.16.35. 157.240.16.35. So as you can see, we have now redirected to Facebook. So yeah, that is how DHCP works. In the background, we type in the URL, it goes to a DHCP server. There the DHCP server searches for that URL, and then once the URL name is found, the DHCP server sends the request to the corresponding IP address, and then gets back the data, or gets back the web page, whatever we have searched for. So this is the basics of DHCP and DNS server, and hope you have understood it. Thank you for watching.